Is someone going to sing from the table? Yeah, it should work fine. I mean, that's a Shure SM57, which is a classic microphone for a vocal and instruments. So.
That's a better one than this one.
Yeah,
That's why I'm not going to get up and phone.
This is in some ways a high quality mic, but it's a condenser microphone, so you can overdrive it really easily. They're very sensitive. So.
Yeah, I've heard it buzz before.
Yeah, it gets overdriven really easy, especially because people have a tendency to tell any of the speakers that are going to be up here to stand like this and not lean into that mic.
Welcome, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our event today on James Baldwin. This is our second in a series of wonderful events, and as you can see, how are James Baldwin's ideas relevant today is our working question for today. But we also want to make you aware of all the wonderful events that are happening all week long. My name is Michael Hale. I'm an English teacher here at Santa Rosa Junior College, and I'm so wonderfully happy to see all of your beautiful faces in the audience. And I think we're really going to have a good time tonight. But at the same time, we want to make you aware that not only today are we having a wonderful presentation, but tomorrow there's going to be a documentary on James Baldwin's life, which is a film called The Price of the Ticket. It is the 25th anniversary of the making of that film, and it is an extraordinary film. There's going to be some preliminary comments before the film, and then we're just going to screen it and have a wonderful discussion afterwards. And that's at 3:30 to 5:30. We've really done a good job trying to put it on different days at different times so that we can get as many audience participation as possible. So 3:30 to 5:30 tomorrow. Price of the ticket. I also like to let you know that if you'd like to stream that documentary, it's available for free from the Santa Rosa Library anywhere on campus as well, due to our new streaming software. That's tomorrow, Thursday. Monday, April 6th, from noon to 1, Walter Turner, who's a historian, teaches at the College of Marin, and also runs a show called Africa Today on Monday nights at 7 o'clock at KPFA. Great historian. It's going to be a wonderful experience. More history about the civil rights movement. That's Monday at April 6th. On Thursday, April 16th, we're going to have Jewel Gomez, who's the author of the Gilda Stories and Waiting for Giovante, which is some original writing she's done that was inspired by James Baldwin's novel Giovante's Room, which was one of the first novels in American history that featured an openly gay relationship, homosexual relationship. So that's going to be an exciting event as well. So let's get ourselves in the frame of mind. What I thought I'd do is just read a very, very brief quote from Amiri Baraka, who was a wonderful poet and writer who just passed away last year. But he gave a eulogy at James Baldwin's funeral in 1987. And this was the closing paragraph of his eulogy that I think will help us get in the frame of mind for today's event. Jimmy's voice, as much as Dr. King's or Malcolm X's, helped shepherd and guide us towards black liberation. Let us hold him in our hearts and minds. Let us make him part of our invincible black souls, the intelligence of our transcendence. Let our black hearts grow big, world-absorbing eyes like his, never closed. Let us one day be able to celebrate him like he must be celebrated if we are ever to be truly self-determining. For Jimmy was God's black revolutionary mouth. If there is a God and revolution, his righteous natural expression, an elegant song, the deepest and most fundamental commonplace of being alive. That's wonderful. Amiri Baraka speaking about James Baldwin on his funeral. We have a wonderful panel today. I'm going to introduce the speakers as they speak. And our first two speakers are from the Black Student Union. This is an organization on campus that I have gained so much respect for over the years. In fact, when I came to interview for my job here, the first thing that I did was picked up the campus paper, and the first thing that I read about Santa Rosa Junior College was about the Black Student Union and their trip to Africa, that they built a school. And so I said to myself when I read that paper, this is a school that I want to be at, where students are doing this kinds of activity and these kinds of international solidarity. And so I can't say enough about what the Black Student Union has been doing on campus in terms of educational programming around police accountability, around mentoring and educating young people in the community. In fact, they're central players in a youth conference that's going to take place on April 25th. All day here on campus, and we really encourage the community, and if you have any young people in your lives that are in the kind of 6th grade to 12th grade range, and you want to get them on campus, it's these two folks, Elias and Damion, that you want to get them in touch with, because they'll get them signed up for this youth conference and on campus and really engaged. So our first speaker is Elias. He's one of the leaders of the Black Student Union. And let me get his PowerPoint presentation up so we can get our thing started here. All right, here it is. Slideshow from beginning. Please help me welcome Elias.
Hey everybody, how y'all doing? Good, good. All right, I'm happy to be here. First, I want to say thank you to the IT people. You're going to be messing with the lights all day today. And, Abby and Lauren for inviting us and giving us an opportunity for students to speak and, have an opportunity, a platform. And thank you all students for coming, taking time of your day, getting some extra credit, learning about a great topic. And, when I first, excuse me, I have a little cold, so I might be coughing. I'll cough away from the microphone. But, when I first got that email from Abby asking, oh, do you all want to come and speak about, James Baldwin, I was like, that sounds like a, great idea. But then I thought, I was like, who's James Baldwin again? I was really thinking that, what do? We go on Google, type in his name, and then, pictures come up, and you see his face, and then you remember, you're saying, oh, she's talking about James Baldwin. James Baldwin is no joke. I first ran into James Baldwin in my second year in college, because if you're a person of color, the history books in which you learn really, unfortunately, pretty much erase your people's contributions to this country, and you're forced to learn this history, and there's really no acknowledgement of the significant contributions that your people have made in the construction of of this country. So when I first ran into him, I was really amazed. And once I advise all y'all, go on YouTube, read some of his essays, see some of his videos. I mean, this person was very powerful, and the way he analyzed things was just unbelievable. So first, before I got into speaking about James Baldwin, James Baldwin, probably you all have read, and as Dr. Hale was saying, he was a person ahead of his time. This person was analyzing the 60s when he was living in that time, the way in which we look at the 60s now. How we are way past that time, and we can look back and say, wow, this is what Malcolm X was taking. This is the form that Malcolm X was taking. This is the form that Martin Luther King was taking. This is the form that the Black Panthers were taking. But he was doing that all in that moment and contributing as much as he can to all the movements. So this, just to, celebrate his life. And, I don't know him personally, but I think that James Baldwin would want us to, not only celebrate his life, but use what he was saying to really analyze the society and the, where we are now. Where are we? Are we really past that time? Are we much better? Are we worse? That's what I believe he would want us to be dedicating our time to. So first, I just wanted to, develop a platform for us to truly understand where are we right now. So I'm just gonna quickly go over some facts about where we are in America right now, in the conditions of African Americans, and I'm gonna play with this little pointer here. For my first stat, we'll start at birth, at the beginning of life. So we have some, turn this around, some infant mortality rates. When James Baldwin was writing a letter to his nephew, and it was an amazing. I recommend all of y'all to read it. But I'm just going to be using some of his great language he used in his letter to slowly go through the slides. So first, what he wrote to his nephew. He said, your countrymen have caused you to be born under conditions not far removed from those 100 years ago. And these statistics, as you can see, pretty recent to 2013, and you can see the disparities in the infant mortality rates. And what that pretty much means is, infants dying in United States hospitals. And these are the rates here. And the CDC were really concerned about this. Obviously, the media doesn't focus too much on this, but on the right, these were a couple of reasons that the CDC, the stress of women from constant discrimination. Being a black woman in the United States of America, it's only something I could fathom. I cannot really. I'm not going to pretend like I can really, say how they feel, but these are some of the reasons: stress of women from constant discrimination, unequal access to prenatal care, and I'm reading from the left hand, discrimination of healthcare workers resulting in disproportionate care. And when I was reading this, and I was saying, oh, okay, this must be because of lack of educational attainment. They don't know, how they should be taking care of themselves and such. But what I read, it's kind of on the bottom. Educational attainment was not a major factor in the infant mortality rate. I actually saw that black women that have PhDs had actually higher risks of infant mortality rates than other women of different ethnicities that did not even have a high school diploma. I'll go to my second slide. So college enrollment completion, we're out of college now, and these are just some of the, let me make sure. So here are the, as we can see, high school dropout rates by ethnicity. And as we can see, the colors for, our indigenous people. As we can see there, this SRJC is actually on native land. And, that's something that's not really highlighted as much as it should be. But as you can see, they have that, high school dropout rates, African Americans, Latinos, they're very low. And now, so once these students are dropping out, what about the students that stay in it? How far are they going? So then, go to the, there's this new precedent. It's called the school to prison pipeline. This is, it's getting some buzz now, but this is something that's been happening for years. And this was a great graphic that, pictures worth 1,000 words, they say. And I see images are way more powerful than statistics. And this talks about the, students, 40% of students expelled from U.S. schools each year are black. And if you don't know, I always used to think the African-American population was much greater, but it's really only 13% of the United States population. And, to see a figure like that, 40% of students expelled, that's, it's a troubling number. As we can see next, 40% of students involved in in-school arrests or referred to law enforcement are black or Latino. Black students are 3.5 times more likely have times more likely to be suspended than when compared to the white population. And black and Latino students are twice as likely to not graduate from high school. And 68% of all males in state and federal prison do not have a high school diploma. And when we look to our left, there's a lot of research going in, especially by our state and nationally, into foster youth. How much care are they really getting, and how much care are they getting from their foster parents? And what they're finding is just extraordinary statistics of how much of the incarcerated population they make up. So here we see 50% of children in the foster care system are black or Latino. 30% of foster youth entering the juvenile justice system are placement related. Are placed in behavioral classes. 25% of young people leaving foster care will be incarcerated within a few years after turning 18. A quarter of them, they will go to prison. Well, not 100%, they're not gonna go, but this is just what the stats are saying, and and that's the question. Are we gonna allow a quarter of them to be incarcerated? 50% of young people leaving foster care will be unemployed within a few years after turning 18. And this is, a result of how much care that we are giving them. And 70% of inmates in California state prisons are former foster care youth. 70%. 70% of inmates in California state prison are former foster care youth. And on the bottom has some statistics about incarceration, but I have another slide that's a little bit clearer. Next, so they're ending in prison. So, okay, so I guess they're committing more crimes, right? So, what's big in California? Marijuana, right? It's really big here. And, I'll just pull up some statistics. On the top slide, it says marijuana use by whites, blacks, and Latinos aged 18 to 25. And as we can see, the white represents white, the black is black, and the red is Latino. And as we can see, these are the rates of the population using that drug. On the bottom, it's a bit disfigured, but what we can see is the black still represents black, and the red is Latino and white. And if we see it, it's almost this shift. It's this shift. African Americans are being incarcerated at far more greater rates than whites when they themselves are not making up a great population of the people using these drugs. So these are a bit troubling also. Next, Black Lives Matter, right? We've been hearing that around the news. Hundreds of thousands of people are closing down bridges, closing down highways, closing down schools. High school students are walking out. Congressional staff are walking out. This is a real movement, but But what? I mean, the media isn't really the media never really, talks about the real topic. But, so what's really going on? And I just, wanted to take this from to see it objectively and see the statistics. So now we see the incarceration rates, white, Latino, and black. And African-American males, 37%. White males, 32%, white females, 49%, African-American females, 22%. And the black women in many statistics are, they're being heavily ignored in many of the, Black Lives Matter protests and this and that. And, that's really sad because the women are going through, they're always ignored and not acknowledged as they should be. And the imprisonment rate for black females was twice the rate of white females, also very troubling. And, with these incarceration rates, the death of African Americans, this is probably one of the, the biggest reasons that's pushing people. This is a multiracial movement of people really, moving forward and saying this is not right. And, this really focuses on deaths. As you can read it, I can read it for you. This was a study done by ProPublica. The 1,217 deadly police shootings from 2010 to 2012 captured in the federal data show that blacks aged 15 to 19 were killed at a rate of 31.17 per million, while just 1.47 per million white males in that age range died at the hands of police. 31 for every 1 million. And the Malcolm X grassroots movement were, they were really stunned by these numbers. And they went to the federal government and they said, so how many people are being killed by the police? Just a number. And what they found out was they don't collect that number. They don't collect the number of people killed by police officers. I mean, we could find stats for how many chairs are in every auditorium in every university. And, we can't find a number of lives that are lost. So Malcolm X grassroots movement, they said, we can't have that. We're going to collect it ourselves. So what they did, they went on this campaign and just contacted the police, the departments. And they said, how many people died in your office? We want to collect that. The federal data, what they do is it's a voluntary. The departments can voluntarily give their numbers, but they went for it and said how many actually died, and they only got a small percentage of it. But what they found out was when they compared it to the days, what they came out with was every 28 hours, an African American is killed by an officer, vigilante, or security officer. Every 28 hours. If you went to high school here, you may have heard that every 15 minutes, for teenagers in car accidents dying. This is every 20 hours an African American is killed. And the vigilante like Trayvon Martin was, killed by a self-appointed neighborhood watch person. So these are very startling numbers. So James Callme, who's that? He is the director of the FBI, and he really shook the platforms of the United States when he was speaking at Georgetown University, and he said some pretty profound words. And I didn't want to just paraphrase because I believe there needs to be you know, when people are speaking out, just as James Baldwin was, you know, they need to be acknowledged because they are really pushing the boundaries. They are saying what people don't want to hear because they're analyzing where they are currently and they are saying it. And just saying it, that's a revolutionary of itself. Just speaking out, that's humongous. So I'm going to read what he said. He said, 2 young black men on one side of the street look like so many others the officer has locked up. 2 young white men on the other side of the street, even in the same clothes, do not. The officer does not make the same association between the two about the 2 white guys, whether that officer is white or black. The officer turns toward one side of the street and not the other, referring to the black side. Police officers, people of enormous courage and integrity in the main, are in those neighborhoods, risking their lives to protect folks from offenders who are the product of problems that will not be solved by body cameras. That's a pretty profound statement. He said, they are there to protect folks from offenders who are the product of problems that will not be solved by body cameras. That's a topic we're going to reach later on in the PowerPoint. He said, Callme said, law enforcement must recognize its historic unjust treatment of disfavored groups and work to move past biases by developing real relationships with the communities they police. This is the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They are pretty much in charge of most of law enforcement in the United States of America. And when the FBI did a little bit of digging and said, wow, you know, we're getting a lot of flack for not collecting how many people are, you know, being killed by police officers. And when they looked at the Malcolm X grassroots movement, the every 28 hours, they said, that's not right. Every 28 hours an African American is being killed? No, that's not right. We did our own digging, and they said it's closer to every 19 hours. Department of Justice claims the number is close to every 19 hours that an African American is killed. And this is just a digging. They have not collected the complete data, but you know, it could be worse, or it could be better. But we know what it'll probably be. So I'm switching to unemployment rates. It may look like a big shift, but poverty is something James Baldwin focused on a lot. As him growing up, you know, large family, you know, they were many times in poverty, and poverty is. Poverty discriminates, but it doesn't really, you know. Obviously, there's a larger proportion of African Americans in poverty, but poverty hurts all people. When you're living in poverty, everything is harder. So what we hear, this is unemployment rates by race and educational attainment. So what I want you to focus on here is to see, when you're looking at the level of education they've attained and compared it to the unemployment rates. So now, we see, you know, black and red, white and blue, Latino and green. So if we see unemployment on the left, less than high school, you know, very high. But let's go all the way to bachelor's or higher. If we see the unemployment rate for bachelor's or higher, it's pretty high. Even, you know, education. If you get that education, you'll be successful. You'll get that job you want, you'll be successful. But when you look at other ethnicities that have lower attainments of education, they also have high unemployment rates. And then percent of poor children living in areas of concentrated poverty. This is the percentage of poverty. On the bottom, a total of about 16.1 million children under the age of 18 are living in poverty. 16.1 million in the United States of America. If you don't know, the United States of America is the richest country on earth. In California, we have over 500,000 homeless children. In California alone. And in regards to California's economy, we are the 8th largest economy on earth. California. Us, just California, right? Cali, right? We are the 8th largest economy. We have a greater economy than the country of Russia. California itself. And we have 500,000 homeless children? 500,000 homeless children? And this is a poverty rate by race and ethnicity. You know, as you can see, poverty affects all ethnicities, just at different rates. You know, we have whites at 10%, 12% Asian, 25% Hispanic, and 28% black. 15% of all adults are living in poverty. A total of 46.5 million people are living in poverty. Blacks have 3 times the deep poverty rate than whites. And just remember the definitions the United States is using for poverty is if you have a family of 4, to be considered living in poverty, you need to be making around $26,000 a year for 4 people. A family of 4, 26,000. I mean, $26,000. I mean, like, you know, I mean, even if you make higher than that, I mean, you know, you're still living in poverty. And these numbers are, they're grossly not, they don't represent what real poverty is in this country. So the numbers would be a lot more. So, what do we do? James Baldwin, yeah, can we call him for help? You know, he's left us his books, his novels, his YouTube clips, his speeches. You know, what do we do? And something that I saw continuously in many of his talks was, you know, I'll read his quote, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." And when he was speaking at UC Berkeley, a student asked him, what do we do? I mean, we go on marches, we go on committees, we speak at different events like these, and it's just not changing. We're still dying, we're still living in poverty. What do we do? And he said, you know, until we really face it. And what does he mean, face it? I mean, I just showed you a whole bunch of statistics. Are we facing it? Are we truly, you know, acknowledging and really understanding what's really going on? And are we acting? That's a big thing. Are we acting when we see these numbers? You know, are we really understanding that whatever those ethnicities are, those are human beings. You know, we are all interconnected. So how are we going to transform it? I mean, he didn't know the answer. I'm really not going to know the answer. So, but obviously, we know the economic structure and the political structure in which we're living in. I mean, you know, it inherently takes advantage of the most vulnerable communities. You know, that's where we are. But what do we do? So we just say, oh, we can't rewrite the tax codes. You know, obviously we need to redistribute the wealth in this country. But what do? We can't change the tax codes. We're college students. We go to the JC. What can we do? There's a lot we can do. It's one life at a time that, you know, we could change the world. Us ourselves, like Dr. Hale said, we went to Tanzania. Yeah, we went to Tanzania. When do you ever learn about anything in Africa? You know, where some people believe where, you know, history started. You know, when we don't even have any mention of that country in our history books, it's a bit frightening. So what we said? You know what? We need to go to Africa. You know? And luckily we ran into Deborah McCracken. She's a student here that went there before and said, you know, I'm helping build the school. Do you want to help? Do you want to help? Do you want to help me? And we were like, yeah. I mean, we don't have money, but we can help you. So what we did, you know, we fundraised the money, over $17,000, to help completely fund the school and take ourselves there, because we wanted to experience it too. And we went over there. You know? Yeah. Thank you. It was a collective achievement. And with the achievement, what we were able to really understand was it's one life at a time that we could change it. And you know, just Dr. Hale said, you know, just last week I went to St. Mary's in San Jose State with a group of you know, impoverished students, you know, living in an at-risk community. The week before that, I was at UC Berkeley at a Women of Color Empowerment Conference for me as a male to understand the unearned privileges I take advantage of, to learn about how the life expectancy rate of a transgender woman was 35. Today in the United States, 35. You know, we need to act. You know, it's our opportunity to transform society, and we're doing it. You know, don't ever feel pessimistic and say we can't change it. Look at the facts. We're not Congress people. We can't change it, but we can. It starts one life at a time. You need to find what makes you, what are you passionate about? Where in this revolution are you gonna fit? What really makes you passionate? And you find a group that is also trying to change that, and you join it, and you do something about it. One life at a time. Even if you're busy, just being able to speak about these issues in your circles, that's revolutionary of itself. So we do have the power to transform our community one person at a time, and we can, because it's our responsibility. We're all interconnected. No matter what ethnicity you are, whatever religion, we're all interconnected. We're all on this earth together, so we have to save it. Thank you.
All right. It's a great example of these high-quality students that we have here at SRJC that gets turned out of the BSU as well. I mean, this is phenomenal. Let's keep this rolling, and we got Damion coming in. He's one of the founders of the resurgence of the Black Student Union here on campus. All right.
Oh, wow. So they just told me I got to really kind of speed it up, and I got a lot of information I was going to give you, but I'll try my best to kind of, if I'm talking a little bit fast, just try to speed up your listening for me, because we're going to be we're going to be talking about a lot of different stuff. But I just want to acknowledge the fact that SRJC is definitely a special college that allows us to do things. It makes it very easy for us to do things like this, as far as participate in panel discussions as a group or a club, or to come together and make something like this possible, where we're even having a conversation about race and a person like James Baldwin. One thing that I do want to point out is that in the SRJC Magna Carta, it states, and I quote, "The spirit, substance, and ideal purpose of freedom of speech must be protected. Broad freedoms to inquire, express opinion, and dissent without fear of reprisal are vital to our academic community. These freedoms cannot be limited by definition and are valued as mediums to improve the overall organization. Therefore, be it resolved that the appointed president, elected board of trustees, and the entire college community embrace, promote, and protect the right of free expression." So as critical thinking college students at one of the top junior colleges in this entire country, it is our educational obligation to create and or participate in discussions like we're having right now. So I would like to thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be a part of this discussion. And know that under the SRG Magna Carta, that you're in a safe environment to share your open and honest feelings with respect to others being the boundary. With that said, as an African American, I've been aware of a lot of the statistics, the dismal statistics that Elias pointed out for you in all areas of life when it comes to African Americans. I need everyone, before we really get into this, I need everyone to put on their critical thinking caps, because what I'm about to get into may seem a bit abstract at first, but if you are willing to take a clear, open, honest, and logical look at it, it makes a lot of sense. I would like to refer back to the quote that Elias had pointed out with James Baldwin. What was that quote?
Nothing can be changed. Nothing can be changed.
All right, so now we got the participation. Thank you. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but it can't be changed until you face it. So we all know what the situation is that we're talking about. We all know the situation that we're talking about as far as the big elephant in the room. But what I want to do is kind of explain or kind of go into that by talking about one of my best friends who is white, and me and him have discussions about a lot of different things. Intimate discussions about politics, poverty, race. But it was something about the Mike Brown shooting that moved him. Like, he's still asking me to this moment to drop everything and let's fly to St. Louis and be a part of that whole movement. So he's recently been asking me a lot of questions lately, but the most striking one that he asked me was, why does it seem like young black men are being targeted? This is my white best friend asking me this. Why does it seem like young black men are being targeted? Amadou Diallo, Sean Bell, Trayvon Martin, Oscar Grant, Kendall McDade, Ezell Ford, Akai Gurley, Tamar Rice, Michael Brown, Eric Gardner, the young man that just got killed in LA, homeless, Skid Row, Charlie Kanang. Why does it seem like young black men are being targeted? Well, telling the truth can be a revolutionary act in a time of deceit. It is almost exasperated in a way not relative to just us as people, but in terms of us as black people, as people of color, that there's a huge elephant in the room. And we as society want to talk about the pictures on the wall or the window dressing. We don't want to talk about the historic problem that we as black people, as African people, have faced in this area of the world. I mean, it's literally almost a sickness. It's a psychological sickness that we will not focus on and confront the issue. And I have to say, the most courageous political official to this point, elected appointed political official, was Eric Holder, the first African-American Attorney General of the United States. And he raised the question several years ago. Are we a nation of cowards? This is what Eric Gardner said. Are we a nation of cowards, being unable to talk about racism? And more recently, when he spoke at Morgan State University, he talked about the Chief of Justice of the Supreme Court, saying the way to deal with racism is to ignore it. This is the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court saying the best way to deal with racism is to ignore it and to not talk about it. That's at the level of the Supreme Court. But we have to hold ourselves responsible for not having the courage to deal with the big issue. That is ultimately the cause of all the other problems that we are confronting as people. There's a quote that kind of goes along the lines of courage is the first cousin of self-respect. And where there is no self-respect, or when self-respect is at a sufficiently low level, there is no courage. And we have demonstrated that we don't have the courage to consistently talk about racism. There's a quote that I want to give to you by Charles W. Mills. He was the author of the book called Global White Supremacy. The quote says, "We need to see the European expansion over the world in the modern period for what it is, not as voyages of discovery for deployments for peace, but as missions of conquest, a conquest that, in the words of V.G. Kernan, made them the lords of humankind." In effect, Europeans came to rule the world. You see, we don't want to talk about the historic relationship between those who classify themselves as white and those who classify themselves as black. There was an article recently in the San Francisco Chronicle a few weeks back that talked about the number of white people, almost the majority of white people, who are uncomfortable dealing with the fact that there will be a majority of non-white people in the United States within the next 20 years. You know, when you think of the situation in Ferguson, these are people, the officers that were in Ferguson were there to protect them. They came into Ferguson with tanks and sniper rifles and dressed in full-on military gear as though they were confronting an enemy. When black people were just trying to protect their concern about a young black man being killed. We need to pay deep, comprehensive attention to that. Now, what is racism, white supremacy? According to Dr. Francis Cress Wilson, who is a board-certified psychologist out of Washington, D.C., racism, white supremacy is the local and global power system and dynamic structured and maintained by those persons who classify themselves as white, rather conscious or subconsciously determined, which consists of patterns of perception, logic, symbol formation, thought, speech, action, and emotional response, as conducted simultaneously in all areas of people activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war, for the ultimate purpose of white genetic survival, and I repeat, white genetic survival, and to prevent white genetic annihilation on planet Earth, a planet upon which the vast majority and overwhelming majority of people are classified as non-white, meaning black, brown, red, and yellow. And all of the non-white people are genetically dominant in terms of skin colorization compared to the genetic recessive white-skinned people. So what we are seeing today, every week, is another black male who was unarmed, who has been shot and killed. If not every week, every other week, or every other day. This is no different than in the early 1900s when black people were literally tabulating. In the 1900s, African Americans were literally tabulating each time a black man was lynched. And when I say lynched, I'm not talking about being shot. I'm talking about lynched, as in hung, burned alive, castrated, meaning cut their genitals off. All of this speaks to the same dynamic, which is fear of white genetic annihilation. Black women do not pose a threat to white genetic annihilation because females, no matter if they're white, black, brown, or yellow, cannot impose sexual intercourse. That's just physiology. Males can impose sexual intercourse. Black people have the greatest genetic potential to cause white genetic annihilation. And this is the reason why black men have historically been attacked. That's why millions are incarcerated to remove their genetic material from the population. Now, until we can talk about racism and what it is, then we will just go into what I call a black cycle of insanity. And that black cycle of insanity is kill a black male. Then black people protest and call their spokespersons. The ministers come in and pray. Black people put flowers and have a funeral. And then they wait in vain for a court hearing to render justice. The courts don't render justice. There's a long pause, and then the cycle starts again. White person kills an unarmed black male person. Black people protest and call in the spokesperson. The black people sing, pray, and shout. Then they have flowers and a funeral. Then they wait in vain for the court to render justice. The courts don't render justice. There's another long pause, and the cycle starts again because for sure another black unarmed man is going to be killed. Now, I say the answer is not for black people to be out in the streets acting a monkey, acting crazy, because that military setup that we saw in Ferguson, that is what is being projected for black people and all people of color, and eventually all of us. But instigate black people into rioting, then you can cart them off and put them in prison. What we need to be doing as black people, seriously saying, is that we demand that racism, white supremacy as a historic dynamic that has been impacting black lives, that it be given the same recognition that anti-Semitism for the Jewish people is given, that the same recognition that is given to women having their rights, or gays and lesbians and transgender community, all of these groups and their specific complaints can be recognized. But black people, specific complaint of racism, white supremacy, the historic dynamic of which slavery was a part, that somehow we're supposed to not talk about that. The president can talk about the rights of the Israelis to defend themselves, but he can't give his lip service. He can't give his lip service to black people being terrorized on a consistent basis. Our young black men are being terrorized, fearing an encounter with the police. And so, if we don't insist about having respect for ourselves and respect for our history, there has never been a moment from the first time a black person was brought over to these shores during the slavery period. There has never been a breaking time where black people have not been under attack in this country. And we keep getting bones thrown at us. We thought a black president would solve this problem. It's just like black people when we were enslaved in chains. We thought the Emancipation Proclamation is surely going to be the windfall. And Emancipation Proclamation came, and that was followed by the black Christian codes. And so black people go through a whole period of protesting the laws and legislations that were holding black people down. And so we go through that, and so we think, oh, okay, now that's over, and civil rights battle has been won. Has started to begin. And then we end up with the black president after that whole civil rights movement, and we gained all these type of rights, voting rights and all that type of stuff. That 90% of black people voted for, this black president, 90% of black people voted for, thinking certainly he's going to help black people, and he cannot utter the words of racism, white supremacy, nor will he ever. And so this is the situation that we're in. And it is time for us to be calm, to be serious, to be focused, and to be aware people helping unaware people understand this is a war of racism, white supremacy for white genetic survival, which is why the men have to be attacked. In conclusion, we here at the SRJC have a profound opportunity to, in essence, alter the course of history. We have the opportunity to be the first junior college, the first educational institution, the first predominantly white educational institution to come out publicly and take an affirmative stance against white supremacy. That is revolution. Thank you.
Again, folks, Black Student Union, get involved. The meetings are
every Monday at 5 o'clock in the Center for Student Leadership, now called the Rotary Club.
Absolutely.
Leadership.
All right, Mondays at 5 o'clock. We have a very special treat now. Abby's going to read us one of her original poems. It's inspired by James Baldwin. Without Abby's involvement, we would not have a WOLM today. This has been really her baby, and it's been her, undying efforts. This has really been remarkable, all the efforts that she put in. So let's please thank her just for that. And please focus your attention now. She's gonna read us a poem.
Yeah,
It's gonna be wonderful.
I'm gonna do it from here.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do it from. Okay. Let's see. Gonna start with a little song that goes all the way back. Goes all the way back to this country. Michael rowed the boat ashore. Hallelujah. Michael rowed the boat ashore. Hallelujah. From South Carolina, St. Helena Island, abolitionists and teachers heard that song and wrote about it in their letters. 100 years later, come round by my side and I'll sing you a song. I'll sing it so softly it'll do no one wrong. On Birmingham Sunday the blood ran like wine, but the choir kept singing of freedom. Richard Farina, memorializing the bombing in Birmingham at the 16th Street Baptist Church that killed 4 little girls. American-grown terrorism. So those 2 songs cover 100 years, and I wrote a poem after reading Baldwin and being inspired by Michael Denzel's Smith article in The Nation magazine. It's called Sprinkle. They sprinkle it on salads as they limit the ballot, wipe their mouths with fine linen as the officers keep killing, young brothers talking business or average daily walking, little boy in the park, young man in Walmart talking. It's sprinkled across the screen and we get it in our eyes. It's not a gun, it's a phone. It's not a gun, it's just a toy. He's black, not a gun, and he's a man, not a boy. It's not a gun that a child was waving in a park. It's not a gun, it's a toy, it's a wallet, it's a phone. It's not a bam, done, can't take the bullets back. Boom goes the gavel, another voter off the ballot. Boom, bam, crack, Oscar Grant in the back. Darkness. Darkness in the court. Darkness in the court. Darkness of the heart. Darkness of the heart. If what officer sees is what he believes, and what he believes the officer will see in a talk to teacher, Baldwin decrees, I knew enough about life by this time to understand that whatever you invent, whatever you project, is you. That's from Collected Essays, page 682. What's Jimmy Baldwin saying about you and about me? See, it's sprinkled across the screen and it gets in our eyes. It's not a gun, it's a phone. It's not a gun, it's just a toy. He's brown, not a gun. He's just a teen, more than a boy. It was a toy that Andy Lopez was holding in a field. But what officer believes is what he will see. Tears and wailing in Santa Rosa, indeed. He can't admit what he sees isn't what he believes. She can't admit what she sees isn't what she believes. But it is not permissible that the authors of devastation should also be innocent. It is the innocence that constitutes the crime. James Baldwin, page 292 from My Dungeon Shook, letter to my nephew. Fast forward to more innocence today, or perhaps it's amnesia. Poll taxes become voter ID laws. Plantations become prisons. Public education turns to public-private partnerships. Redlining becomes subprime mortgage loans. Economic inequality resegregates the country, alleviates the do I have to deal with you feeling and post-World War II lending practices that led to segregated suburbs in the first place. But don't give up. Don't give up, Baldwin says. They are, in effect, still trapped in a history which they do not understand, and until they understand it, they cannot be released from it. Page 294, my dungeon shook. But don't give up, Baldwin says. Don't give up. Bitterness is folly. It is necessary to hold on to the things that matter. And one must never in one's own life accept these injustices as commonplace, but must fight them with all one's strength. This fight, however, begins in the heart, and it has now been laid to my charge to keep my own heart free of hatred and despair. Page 236, Notes of a Native Son. So we read, we study, we know, we ask questions about Black Wall Street of Tulsa, Oklahoma, about Rosewood, Florida, the Scottsboro Boys, Emmett Till, Medgar Evers, COINTELPRO, the Central Park jogger defendants. We learn about Ida B. Wells, Harriet Tubman, Madam C.J. Walker, Marcus Garvey, Pedro Albizu Campos, Ella Baker, Fannie Lou Hamer, Malcolm X, Shirley Chisholm. This is what it means to be an American. It's not a gun, it's a book, an essay, a poem, a pen. It's about our education. This is what it means to be an American. Martin Luther King Jr., Stokely Carmichael, Josephine Baker, Huey Newton, Bobby Seale, Angela Davis, Bobby Hutton, Audre Lorde, Cornel West, Ruth Ellis, Toni Morrison, Ruthie Gilmore, Herbert Apteker, Michelle Alexander, Julia Sudbury, and Deborah Berman Santana. This is what it means to be an American. It's not a gun, it's a book, an essay, a poem, a pen. It's all about education. It's all about air and sunlight to keep our hearts free of hatred, free of despair. As we tell the truth, we keep our hearts free. And we bless you, Jimmy. As we tell the truth to keep our hearts free, we bless you, Jimmy.
That was so beautiful. Thank you so much. We want to respect everyone's time, but we also want to encourage everyone to contribute and to ask questions. It's 6 o'clock right now, and I know that some people need to move to another class or need to go. So if you do, please, we understand, but we really encourage you to stay and ask questions. We have microphones at either side of the aisles, and if you just want to form a queue, that would be great. And we'll start those questions in just 1 second. But I did promise that I put out a sign-in sheet for anyone that needs to run right now.
Yeah. I don't know if another class is coming in.
I think we have time. I think we have plenty of time. I just want to respect everyone's time.
Sounds good.
And I know that
That's good.
the first comment is going to go to Lauren.
Okay, sounds good. I just couldn't write it.
Oh, you shouldn't have told me that.
So we're gonna start the questions in just 1 minute, as some students have to go to another class. We do understand.
Also, so that was to hear another prayer. Like I was not, honestly, I was not expecting it to be that good.
But I just wanna